good morning. This is me, Sameh. This is EA300B. So what do we have on the agenda? I think it's the other side of truth. This is again children's literature. Perhaps it is different is that we're not dealing with picture books anymore. On picture books, taken the tale of Peter Rabbit and Voices in the Park. We spoke about them in and out. And now it's time that we started something new. It's children's literature, but it's novels that we're having this time around. So how much do we know about the other side of truth? I think I started talking about it in the master class, and we're going to talk about it in depth here, of course, today and meet again, inshallah, next week. What do we know about the other side of truth? Have you done your research? Have you gone out of your way and perhaps read uh, the novel or perhaps a summary or something? How much do we know about the other side of truth? If you know a thing or two about it, raise your hand. Mira did, Joyce did. How about everybody else? The other side of truth. Okay. Okay. So let's establish the fact that it is a novel. Okay. And what kind of novel it is would depend on when it was written. Remember that you cannot read a novel unless you set the context. The context can be the time and the place of the novel, the time and the place of, the author, obviously. And of course, there is going to be talk about ideas and ideologies because no work of art, whether it's literature or art, is innocent. People have their own agendas, and like I keep saying, agendas are not always bad. Agendas are messages that you're trying to get across to other people. And some of these messages are benign, are educational, have they also have people's interests in mind and at heart. And this is exactly what um, Beverly Naidu is doing. She is an author like no other in terms of the messages that she tries to get across to her readers, who happen to be, for the most part, young adults. Yeah, she wouldn't mind if children pick up the book and read it, but she's primarily targeting people in their teens, perhaps, and above, of course. There are a lot of issues that mature readers can engage with in the book too. She gives everyone uh, what he or she may ask for in terms of the ideas that she kind of introduces or addresses in the book. And in all her books, being primarily and above all else a political activist and a political exile. And so this is what we're going to discover in a minute. But before we do that, I would like us, like we always do, think of those paratextual elements, whether and by paratextual, I'm not confining myself to whatever we see on the cover page in terms of the publisher in terms of where it was first published, and also if there are copyrights notes. No, I'm not kind of, when I talk about paratextual stuff, I also mean the context in terms of time and space. So the first thing that we need to perhaps focus on would be the title, and how the title can tell us a great deal about what is ahead. Titles are not chosen randomly, they mean a lot. So unpacking the title is not a waste of time. It can mean a lot. It can even foreshadow what will happen next. So let's look at the title. The title is The Other Side of Truth. I'll give you a minute to kind of think of what the title may mean and what kind of expectations it can set. The other side of truth. So you have truth, and you have also the other side. Think about it and come to the mic and share insights. Like always, we don't tax, we don't judge. It's a free speech kind of class where you're given the opportunity to tell what you want to tell. Okay. Yeah, I'll give you a minute to think of the title and come to me and tell me what you think it means. The other side of truth. The other side of truth. Can somebody send the link to Wissam? I think she has issues accessing the room. Joyce, can you help with this?
Sure, doctor. I'm doing so right now. One
Yeah,
second.
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joyce, for the link.
Most welcome, doctor.
Yeah. So now, can we talk about the title? The Other Side of Truth. Raise your hands if you would like to come to the mic and share. Again, it's a free speech kind of class. We're not judging. And I would like you to tell us what you think. Okay, Joyce. Let's have Joyce on board. Yeah.
Yeah, good morning, doctor.
Very good morning to you.
So not to spoil it for those who did not read the story yet, but the moment you look at the title, when it says like the other side of the truth, it means that the story that we're gonna read has more than one side to it. Maybe an official one, like the actual thing what happened, and maybe there's a false thing. That's what people are trying to present, like sometimes certain things, either political or societal or something, they want to um, like present an idea from their point of view, especially with the media and the stuff, like what's happening on the news. Each part tries to show their point of view of the matter. Sometimes it's true and sometimes it isn't true. So yeah, there are two sides to the story. What, let's say, the government or the corrupted government is trying to present to the world, and what actually happens in real life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about perspectives, differing perspectives, shifting perspectives sometimes. Sometimes you hold to a certain belief or idea, but over time, you're likely to change it for whatever reason. So the word truth is key here. So obviously, we're talking about different versions of the truth, if you like. Like Joyce said, you can have an official version of the truth, and it can be adopted and embraced by a government, for example, thinking that what they do is the best and they know best and they know what is in the best interest of their people. And you have the version of the truth held by individuals who see things differently. So the title promises us perhaps multiple versions of truth, and it's up to us to kind of do our research, read very thoroughly and very closely, so that we can come up with the authentic one. And obviously, again, it's about perspective. It's about which angle of vision you're seeing things through. But we need to remember that this is a novel and this is not history, which means that you'll be guided or perhaps misguided, I don't know. You have a narrator who sometimes, unfortunately, takes you hostage. He or she gives you things through his perspective and through his point of view. So we don't want to fall into this trap. The idea that we are given, um, not only the events, but the interpretation of the events through one angle of vision. No, we're not, uh, um, you know, we have passed this stage. We have critical minds, we have independent thinking minds, and we can think for ourselves and we can come up with our own conclusions. This is the message that perhaps Naidu herself is trying to give to us or uh, um, um, to deliver to us. The idea that you need to have this critical mind, you need to think of for yourself. You shouldn't subscribe to received ideas and ideologies. They can form and shape your mindset and your thinking at one point, but sometimes especially when you grow up, you need to stop being fed received knowledge and received ideas and start to kind of break free from those ideas. Okay, so it's the other side of truth. Obviously, there was one established truth, perhaps official truth, the truth of immigration offices everywhere, the truth that is given to us by governments, and there is another version of the truth given by the citizen, by the individual, by the refugee who receives the service if it's an immigration service. Again, it's about visions, and those visions can be colliding. I can have my own vision as how something is done, and um, Joyce or Wissam or Munira can have their own visions. We don't have to see eye to eye on everything, right? This is perhaps what Naidu is trying to also teach us. That we need to show humility. We need to be accepting of other people's views and perspectives. Um, so the other side of truth, a novel, and it's a children's book where obviously children are addressed. Again, the word children may be um, a little um, I mean, inconsistent with the ideas that we're going to meet. You may think at one point that this is bigger than a child, which is true and not true. Again, children, perhaps nowadays, when we talk about the 2000s and after the 21st century, children are not the children that we're used to. They are now very critical. They now have independent minds. They can think. They can negotiate. They can talk. Obviously, the novel was ahead of its time, engaging with issues that the children of today can deal with. Again, I said that the novel does not only address children, it has a thing for everyone. It also addresses people like me and you, adults and mature individuals. When you talk about issues of immigration, when we talk about the role of media, good or bad, when we talk about parents and their responsibilities towards their children, when we talk about how children can sometimes, when they get frustrated, how they can take um, matters into their own hands and they show and express agency. So these are issues that we're grappling with in the other side of truth. And again, restricting them to children wouldn't be doing a good service to the novel, and restricting them to mature readers wouldn't do the novel any service or a good service either. So we're having this balance. It is a children's book, but it does not only concern children, because again, the ideas and the issues are for children and beyond. Okay, so let's talk about the story, because obviously the story is um, or what happens, and the narrative itself is, I mean, the only way that the writer can, project and give the ideas that she has in mind. So those who have read the novel, I need somebody to come to the mic and tell us. Typically, it's a novel. Novels means that we are in for a plot. And of course, we have a plot, then we have characters, we have setting, time and place, and we have the point of view. And of course, when all of this come together, we have themes and ideas. So let's talk about it from this formal lens. Let's focus on the form. Tell me about the characters. Tell me about the plot at one point. Tell me about the setting in terms of time and place and all these kinds of. So I need somebody to come to the mic and give us the plot, retell the story. Munira, yes.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Yes, the story is the place for the story between Nigeria and England. The story talk about two children, Sid and Tony. They saw their mother murdered because of their father. He's a journalist. Talk about the corruption of the education system in Nigeria. Then the government decided to kill him. Then instead they killed the mother in the front of the children. For them safety, the father decided to bring them to England with the uncle. The uncle is a lawyer there. Then the father, he always believed in telling the truth. In order for the safety for his children, he decided to send them to England by using fake passport and fake name. And this one is against his belief. But in order for safety for his children, that's why he convinced. When the children they went there for England, they they have difficulties between the racism there and
Racism,
bullying
yes.
because yes, getting bullied for them darker skin there. And said she was very smart. She's very clever girl. That's why she get bullied for two English girl. I'm thinking maybe what the name? Rosa
Yeah,
or
you're talking
they
about
are
Sid
bullying.
and yes. Okay. We'll talk
Yes,
about
there.
their names when we talk about the characters. Yeah, go on if you still have more to add.
And the government framed the father that he's the reason he killed the wife.
Yeah. Okay.
And also the novel is very realistic because telling our and very cool in the setting and telling the event.
Okay, we'll talk about the issues later. We're going to talk about the takeaways and the significance behind moves and actions taken by the different characters. Thank you so much, Munira. You did an excellent job. So this is as far as the plot is concerned. It's simple. We have two children, a girl and her young brother, and they are originally from Nigeria. Their father is a journalist, an investigative journalist. He exposes the corruption of the government. The government does not stand still. They have to do something. They obviously terrorize him. They wanted to kill him, but instead of killing him, they killed his wife. So the father, feeling how dangerous the situation has become, he was very fearful for his kids. He sent them to England, like Munira said, under very strange circumstances and uh, not in the best of circumstances. When they went there, they have to kind of apply for asylum. They have to be taken to schools and hostels. They will be received. Uh, um, People are not going to treat them the way they should. And in lots of complications, the father on the verge of being deported to Nigeria. The girl or the daughter has to do something, has to be economical with the truth. And that weighs very heavily on her because she has never done that before. And then after that, she talks to the media. She talks about their cause, and somehow there is a shift and a turn in their favor, and they reconcile. I mean, the kids and their father, and that would be the end, a happy end, fortunately. So this is the story or the plot in a nutshell. Let's talk about the characters. I would like somebody to come to the mic and share the names of the characters and what they do in the novel. The novels are about plots and are also about characters. Characters are those who populate the landscape of the novel. So remember characters, who the characters are. Okay, so we'll come back to the characters. Can we talk about the setting? Setting, of course, means time and place. Where are we? Are we in one single place, or are we moving from one place to another? Yeah, Joyce, what do you have to say about the setting in terms of place and time?
Yeah, doctor. At the beginning of the novel, it started in Lagos in Nigeria. Okay, and then after her mom was killed and they had to flee the country, they moved to London. So they are in London, and later on, they were like at the end of the novel, there were some plans of going to America since her father might work as a professor there, a lecturer there. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So obviously, when we talk about places, places are not there as backdrops or backgrounds. Sometimes they take on roles of their own. They become very important. Did you sense that, yeah, Joyce, that places can make a difference if you compare Nigeria to London or England? What does Nigeria stand for in the novel, and what does London and England stand for?
Yeah, doctor, like Nigeria, it like feels that it's like, like the oppressive country where everything is corrupted and the government is corrupted and people should flee this place to find
Mm,
another like a shelter from
mm,
the corrupted government and stuff.
mm,
And England is like, like the safe haven for them, but still they faced some difficulties there. It
mm,
wasn't all peaceful and everything was good from the very beginning, especially when the lady that who smuggled them inside the country left them to fend for
mm,
themselves, and they were stuck in the middle of this video place
mm,
where there was like some vandalism happening there. So yeah, and because of that, they went to the police station, and yeah, it wasn't an easy stuff for them, especially
yeah,
for the girl and her home, and I mean the kids in their home country. They were like living in big houses. They had big rooms, big gardens. They like it seems that they were like of high class or at least middle class.
mm,
But
mm,
they when they went to England, they had to live in these cramped buildings with people, and they had to share rooms with people they did not know. So it was like it wasn't as as you
uh,
as you said,
as
it wasn't
bad.
like
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
It wasn't
Yeah, I
that
mean,
good.
so yeah,
Yes,
so places are what we make of them, what people make of
definitely,
them. Yeah,
definitely, yes.
Nigeria could have been, like you're saying, a green land, a green world where nothing is bad about it, but it's the people, it's the government that made of it a dictatorship and a place that nobody wants to live in. Correspondingly, England, yeah, but I mean, they were under the impression that it's honey and milk over there, and they're not going to face any issues anymore. But the sad reality is that England can be as oppressive in its bureaucracy, in its restrictions on refugees. Okay, but after a while, things I mean, it's in England that they got that deliverance and salvation. It's in England that they could reconcile with their father and live perhaps and hopefully a happy life afterwards. So places can be both good and bad, depends on how we make of those kinds of places. So Nigeria is not all bad news, and England is not all good news, it seems, right? Um, yeah, that's interesting. This is the place. Let's talk about the time of the play. And obviously, if we're not given clues as when what is happening, we would go to when the novel was published, and that would be how we can determine the time. But we have clues inside and outside the book. The book, of course, was published in 2000, and the reference in the novel inside is about the time when a famous president, Nigerian president, was there. I mean, famous, perhaps notorious or infamous in the sense that he was a dictator and an absolute ruler. He's called General Abashi or something. So we can almost tell if when we go back to history and check when Abashi was in government, we can almost tell. So we're talking about perhaps the 1990s, mid and late 1990s. Again, this is post-independence Nigeria. This is Nigeria after independence, not during colonial rule, which you may find very strange because people are under the impression that if colonial rule is over, if the occupiers uh, are no more, you are going to live in peace. Life is going to be honey and milk. But the sad reality is that this never happens. We normally have new uh, um, colonial rule, but this time around by people, by our own people, people whose skin color is like ours, people whose faith and religion is ours. They do what we do, but they are um in one way or another new colonizers, a new colonial, um, I don't know. So this is what we're seeing in the novel. When you get to know that it was published in 2000 and and there is this reference to General Abbas, you can almost tell what kind of existence the Nigerians used to have. You can almost tell what kind of oppression people were, kind of fleeing and escaping and all those kinds of things. Again, we need to also remember that if we're talking about the 2000s, we're talking about postmodern, uh, um, which you may find very strange because every time we talk about the postmodern times, we talk about twisted narratives, we talk about fluidity in terms of character delineation. We talk about destabilization in terms of ideas, the challenging of orthodoxies. We don't see any of that. It's a normal, typical novel that has a clear beginning, that has a middle, and it has a closure. So it is very strange that in spite of the fact that it was written um, um, in the 90s or in the late 90s, it is very strange that the narrative is normal and is typical and usual. Perhaps the focus with Naidu was on the issues and the ideas, because the issues and the ideas are perhaps new. And then I'm saying the word new with some reservation because if I talk about immigration, immigration is not a new topic, but perhaps it's given prominence in the media nowadays. Perhaps it is new because there was no media to kind of shed light uh, on it in the past. So ideas like immigration, ideas like, responsible media, the role of media. Obviously, there was no media in the the current sense. Media, television, internet, and all those kinds of things. Obviously, these things were not there in the past. And again, we're talking about the role of media, whether it informs, whether it's instigates people, it helps or it hinders, it helps dictators or it goes against them. These are issues that are obviously new and they go with the spirit of the time or the times when we talk about the late 20th century and the 21st century that we are in. So again, these are things that we establish and talk about when we look at the time and when we look at the place or the places where the novel is set. So this is as far as setting is concerned. So we spoke about the setting, we spoke about the plot. Nobody wants to tell us about the characters, who the characters are. We have Said, the main character, female, like a girl in her, perhaps she's in her teens, perhaps mid uh, teens, 14 or 15, and she has her young brother, uh, along with other characters that help. The father, the dead mother. When they go to England, they meet a number of other people that help or hinder their journey. So again, of all the other characters in the novel, Said will stand out as the most important, the most speculative and contemplative, the most vocal. I mean, I'm vocal in the sense that she sometimes have to take matters into her own hand or hands and do stuff that mature and adult people wouldn't do. Again, through her character and through the situations and the hardships that she went through, we get to know about how unfair systems are uh, uh, to children. Children are not treated in the best of ways. Children are like women, treated in the worst of manners, taken for granted, never consulted, and all those kinds of issues. So, in the novel, we have Said, the child, the female child who has agency. We'll talk a great deal about the idea of agency and how children take agency. It's not that they like it, it's not that they grew or grow beyond their years. No, it's simply because the different institutions of society have failed them. They feel frustrated and they think if they wait for mature people or for adults to take action, they are not likely to have this action taken. So they start to develop mechanisms, self-defense mechanisms, and they take matters into their own hands and they make things happen. So this is the agency of children that we're not used to. Children, like I always say, are taken for granted. They are looked upon with suspicion and a great deal of doubt. Obviously, the novel, or perhaps one of the statements that the novel is making, is that children are not as docile and as passive as we think they are. They at one point they decide to kind of break the mold and go out and try to make change happen. And this is what we're going to see with the two characters, the girl and even her young brother. Um, so this is as far as the characters are concerned. And then we move on and talk about the point of view or the narrative. How are things given to us? Is it first person narrator where we have a character who is part of the events and narrating the story from his or her own perspective? Or is it a third person narrator who comes and goes? Is he limited omniscient or is he completely omniscient, giving us everything, explaining everything, giving us, sticking label to the characters, telling us or giving assessments of the different characters and what happens? So this is a question that I'm asking you, those who have read the novel. Is it a first or a third person narrator kind of narrative? No clue? Mm. Okay. So it's not a first person narrator kind of narrative. It's a third person narrative where we have he and she and they. And again, that can create a distance, but at the same time, if we're not aware, if we're not alert enough, the narrator can shove down ideas and views down our throat. So we need to be very alert. We need to again think for ourselves. We need to judge things based on what we see and what we feel about the characters and their motives and actions. And we shouldn't be or we shouldn't fall into the trap of receiving whatever the narrator is giving us with no questions asked. No. Again, one of the primary goals of Naidu herself would be that she wants to create in the reader this critical literacy. She wants the reader to be, she wants the text to be a critical text and the reader to be a critical reader. Critical means that you question things, you challenge orthodoxies, you challenge received ideas. The whole experience can make you a different individual, a different person, and a different reader. Somebody who doesn't take things for granted, who doesn't receive things as is. Uh, um, so this is what she's doing, and I'm not sure that the normal and the usual traditional kind of narrative that she is using is helping her. But again, when we read what she is saying, because she wrote an article about the novel, and this is one of the articles that we're going to read, she made it clear that she has an agenda. On top of her list of priorities would be the idea that she wants to make of her text a critical text. She wants the reader to be a critical reader, engaging with issues that are beyond his immediate surroundings. She's obviously talking to readers who are English or European. She wants them to develop empathy and sympathy towards people beyond their borders and beyond their continent, because she perhaps noticed that children in those parts of the world, in England and in the Western world, are so absorbed in their own uh, concerns, and obviously those concerns are very petty. I mean, it's perhaps about food, it's perhaps about games, about entertainment, but they don't seem to know that there are people in other parts of the world who suffer, who do not have perhaps the democracy that they have. They don't have enough in terms of food and other necessities of life. They are persecuted by their governments. The reader, according to her, the Western reader, especially children, are so absorbed in their own lives and their immediate surroundings, and they lose sight of the fact that other people in other countries and in other continents exist, and obviously it's not the best of all possible kinds of existence. So again, I'm saying that the narrative in its traditional way um, may not help her, but the ideas, when we see how she is presenting stuff, when we see the characters that she is delineating, I think that can make up for this kind of traditional narrative that she is using. Um, so this is as far as point of view is concerned. Um, and then the themes and the ideas that the novel has. And we said that the novel has a great deal to show in terms of themes and ideas. You stumble into themes and ideas as you proceed reading the novel. Again, what stands out would be the idea of children and how they are treated. And when we talk about children and how they are treated, we talk about their parents and the authority of the parents, and whether the parents take responsibility for the actions that they initiate, because in one way or another, our actions as parents affect the children, and they can help or hinder their future. So this is one of the themes, the prominent themes, that the novel is addressing: the idea of parents' responsibilities and where those responsibilities start and where they end, and whether children and their welfare are taken care of, are considered while taking decisions. Sometimes when we take decisions, perhaps most of the time, we don't consult our children. I mean, we take the decisions for them. And if you're moving to another country to work, for example, you wouldn't sit with your, kind of daughters and sons and tell them what do you think, and do you think I should do this? Or no, you don't normally do that. You take decisions single-handedly. And that can affect the children, and it can be traumatic sometimes and stuff like that. So this is one of the issues that the novel addresses and grapples with. Another issue would be the idea of course, um, corruption and dictatorships in third world countries, something that never ends. Post-independence, people in those countries were under the impression that their only challenge or problem was the colonizer or the occupier, and when the colonizer went, nothing changed. We still have colonial rule, but it has the skin of the rulers are different now. They share our skin, they share our religion. Uh, um, so nothing changed, and yeah, things even turned uh, even worse than some people expected. So this is again one of the issues, the idea of colonialism, post-independence states of affair in African and Middle Eastern countries. One of the issues also would be the idea of the media. The role of the media is highlighted in the novel, and you don't really know in our world of late what kind of role the media does. Is it helping individuals? Is it informing people, and telling them about their rights and perhaps their obligations towards the countries that they live in uh, and they are part of? Or is it a tool of perhaps persecution, and it's a tool uh, of perpetuating the status quo, no matter how bad it is? So is it informing or is it helping kind of dictators, and again maintaining and perpetuating the status quo? So this is something that we're going to also talk about in the novel, because it features very prominently in the novel. Again, the issue of immigration. Immigration is also one of the big issues that the novel is addressing, given the fact that Said and her brother are refugees in England. So again, so people would go to England and they seek refuge over there, and they seek asylum. But obviously, uh, um, for some reason, they don't find the experience very uh, good. Sometimes it's very traumatic, and they even regret the fact that they thought about it because of the measures that those countries are taking, the programs that they are setting in place, which ostensibly are welcoming, but in actual fact, they are actually preventing people from thinking about seeking asylum. So immigration is a hot issue. It's a red flag. Everybody talks about immigration, even nowadays, and as we speak. Of course, you know what is happening in the United States, the fact that they are deporting thousands of and extraditing thousands of people back to their home countries, and the treatment that they receive those deportees. I mean, they are not treated in the best of manners. Their human dignity is not kept. I mean, the fact that they are shackled, they are restrained in the brutalist of manners. Um, Again, this is one of the issues that Naidu is addressing herself uh, in the novel. She proves to be ahead of her time, obviously. So the novel is very interesting if you're interested in current affairs, obviously, because it has so many things that we talk about and that the media is talking about as we speak. We'll take a 5 minute break, and then when we come back, we can talk more about the novel and how we're going to approach it. So I'll see you in 5 to perhaps 10 minutes. Let's be realistic. Let's meet in 10 minutes. I'll see you in 10 minutes, inshallah. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, doctor.
الصوت واضح. Is it clear?
Yes, doctor.
Right, ممتاز. Okay. Um, okay, so as I was saying, um, the other side of truth is full of ideas, and those ideas will resonate with us, because the issues are things um, that touch every one of us, whether we are observers of what is happening around us, or sometimes I'm sure among us we have people who have left their countries for whatever reason, whether for work or some people are stranded for no obvious reasons. So the issues are going to resonate with lots of us, like they did with lots of the readers across the world. And that's perhaps one big reason why Naidu received a lot of accolades and a lot of awards for this specific novel and for her entire uh, uh, um, line of novels, because most of her novels deal with those hot button issues: idea of immigration, the idea of, of children and how they are treated, the idea of dictatorships. Children living under dictatorships in the worst of circumstances. So, yeah. So these are issues that find resonance with people and readers. So we have the novel as a primary source, and like I always say, we need to read the novel before we read any secondary material. Read the novel. Don't allow people to spoil it for you, like we did, like I did today. I had no other choice. You left me with no choices because you didn't do what you're supposed to do. You didn't read the novel. And I cannot start discussing it uh, unless you have, a clue as what the plot is. That's why we had to spoil it for you. But again, we didn't spoil it entirely or completely, because there is a great deal that you need to think about. There are details that you have to also be aware of. So I am inviting you to kind of. I know that you're busy. I know that's it's the midterm season, and you're gearing up for the midterm exams, and perhaps you have a lot on your plate already. You're taking other courses, or you're perhaps engaged in training. You're taking this training course, LAS 400, and you're engaged in this or that work place. I know, but I need you to still go out of your way and read the novel and be ready by Thursday. Well, on Thursday, we will have the master class. I'm hopeful that by Thursday, you will have read the novel. It's not so big, and this is the good news, so that you can be on bar with what is happening. You can yourself, connect the dots and establish logical relationships on your own. So again, so people read the primary source, which is the novel itself, start to form assessments of what is happening and how what is happening. And then you go to the secondary sources or the critical material that we normally need in order to inform this discussion, in order to inform our writing experiences when we start to write essays about uh, um, the other side of truth. Because the other side of truth is part of the midterm and also the final exam. So it's very haunting. It's going to haunt you everywhere you go, whether in the midterm or in the final. better prepare for that by reading the primary source, and then afterwards you read the secondary sources. So let's now focus on the secondary sources. What do we have? What do we have to read after? I mean, assuming that we have read the primary source, assuming that we have read the novel. We have a number of articles, and they are all put under the same roof, if you like. We have a book that has all the articles. Let me see if I have. I haven't shared yet. Let me share. So this is the folder that I have for the other side of truth. The book that I'm talking about is where, yeah, I think this is the one. Yeah, and I think you have a copy of this book. Don't you have a copy of this children's literature, classic text, and contemporary trends? If you have a copy of this book, this bluish kind of book, raise your hand. Because somebody was asking me about just that the other day. You don't know from which books you should read and study. So if you don't have a copy of the book, I mean, ask me to send it to you. We can send it on the WhatsApp group. How about that? You're not reacting in any way. Can you hear me? And I want to make sure that you guys can hear me. Raise your hand
Yes,
if you can
doctor.
hear me.
Yes,
Yes,
doctor.
doctor.
Right. My question was about the book. Do you have that book?
Yes, doctor. We found it,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, doctor.
ممتاز. طيب الحمد لله. كده أنا أموت وأنا مستريح. Okay. طيب again, what is this book that I'm talking about? So what is interesting about this book is that it has all the articles that we will need for Naidu and her novel. So if you go to the table of contents, you will have, obviously we're talking about, of course it has also the other critical material, whether we're talking about, the Tale of Peter Rabbit, or Voices in the Park, or even after we finish The Other Side of Truth, Tom's Midnight God. Here, like I said, this is what we're doing after we finish The Other Side of Tom's Midnight God. So let's just focus now on contemporary trends, part 2, contemporary trends, and this is where we're going to find all the articles on and about the other side of truth. The first one is, I think this is perhaps if they go by chapter, this is chapter 12, and one of them is Radical Agendas, Beverly Naidu, The Other Side of Truth. So this is here in this section, we have a number of articles, one of them by Naidu herself, A Writer's Journey, Retracing the Other Side of Truth. And this is the one that you're going to find very autobiographical, perhaps. So we're going to read an in the introduction by Anne Howings and Nicola Watson. This is the introduction, and then you move on to A Writer's Journey, Retracing the Other Side of Truth by Beverly Naidu herself. And then you move on to What is the Other Side of Truth by Jane Giles. These are the articles that we're going to highlight and read. So again, you need to read the primary source first and then read those articles. Um, what else do we have? Like I said, I have those articles divided into separate files. But I mean, you have the book, and the book is very clear. You don't have to have them in separate files. And then we have, I mean, the issues that we're going to talk about. Again, you have one Excel, I mean, Word file, as you may see, it's about media, the role of media. One of them would be about the role of adults and their responsibility towards children. A third would be about uh, the moral responsibility of society or societies towards children. This is one of the things. Um, truth telling and agency. This is also one of the ideas that we're going to also address as we proceed. So these are the issues that we're going to talk about. Again, it's a very interesting novel, and it's very engaging because the issues that it addresses are very contemporary, are issues that we're likely uh, um, to experience ourselves. We experience them or we see other people whom we know experience them. Again, on top of that would be the idea of immigration, the idea of seeking asylum and becoming a refugee overnight for through no fault of you. I mean, civil wars and absolutism and dictatorships, media and the role of media, good or bad, and perhaps will be optimistic and hopeful enough and focus on the bright side of media, media as informing, media as educating, and media as enablers, helping people, exposing corruption, defending people and the right to have peaceful existence, have prosperity, and everything in between. So these are the things that we're going to start to talk about, and we're starting as of the next and the upcoming master class on Thursday. So I've been talking for so long. If you would like to come to the mic and share ideas and impressions about that, come to the mic. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, let me ask you about the midterm. When is the midterm for this course?
On the 6th of March, Doctor.
6
March,
March.
March the 6th. Let me write it down. And we're on the 20th, March the 6th. Okay, so we still have next week and the week after, right? The next week is going to be 24th, and the week after is going to be 3rd, March 3rd. Okay, so we'll try as much as we can to finish next week. And sometimes they say we shouldn't be teaching during exam times. So what we're doing, and this is going to be the agenda, we're going to take it very seriously, like we always do in the master class, and finish and cover territory. And then when we meet again next week, hopefully it's going to be our last as far as the other side of truth is concerned, so that we can start a couple of revision classes. And by the way, I have done enough revision for this course and for the midterm of this course. You can find that also on the YouTube channel. I'll look for it so that you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait until we come to the revision. If you're ahead of time, if you have finished, if you have read the novel and read the articles, you can start. Whether we still we are still discussing it or not, and even the regular classes, I have recordings that are still relevant, and they are also there. Again, if you're ahead of yourself, you can go and perhaps in 4 or 5 hours you can finish the other side of truth from the archive of recordings that I have over there. Again, what makes it very interesting is that it is very relevant, like I'm telling you. So let's give it a designation. If we think, let's put it in a category. Have a novel that has a political aspect to it, and of course it's social because it discusses social issues. Again, we're talking about families and how children receive education, and what happens, I mean, the ideas and the nurture that you give to your kids. These are all social issues, together with the political aspects, the fact that you live in a certain country under a certain system of government. So these are issues that, again, you find interesting, and you find resonance in as a reader. Okay, come to the mic if you have questions. Okay, right. I'll keep the questions and I'll keep the discussion until you have read the novel. So this is what we're doing in the master class. Let me now talk about the midterm exam. What the midterm exam is going to cover, and the format of the midterm exam. I think you're familiar with it by now. And I'm sure you have done EA300A and the courses prior, and you know that in the midterm, the scope of the midterm is not as big as that of the final exam in terms of the amount of questions that you have to answer. Again, if we talk about the exam is normally, the midterm exam, I mean, is divided into two sections. You have the short answer section, and the second section, or the second part, is the long, the essay questions part. If we talk about the short answer questions, you normally have either definitions or concepts and ideas, or perhaps statements taken from the novels and the picture books, and that you need to highlight. Highlighting would mean that you need to kind of talk about the issue, and then you give relevant examples and a bit of analysis. And I told you that my style would be the minimum would be half a page when it comes to short answers. Half a page would be the minimum, not the maximum. A small paragraph wouldn't do, at least with me. It wouldn't say anything. So you normally have three short answer questions, and you choose to write on two of them. and then you move on to the second part, and the second part is the long essay questions, and you normally have two questions, two long essay questions, and you choose to write on one of them, and sometimes you have a close reading question. If you don't know how to attempt close reading questions, focus on the essay question. Again, in terms of what to expect, we have the three pieces of work that we have done together. The Tale of Peter Rabbit, Voices in the Park, and of course, The Other Side of Truth. The three of them are with us and we're being tested on them and about them. So do you have, I think we'll have time for a revision class on the content of the midterm and going to sum up the whole idea and everything. This week on Thursday we'll have our first quiz, right?
Yes,
Yes,
doctor.
Doctor.
Yes.
Yes.
It's on Thursday, and it's going to also cover the two picture books, Voices in the Park and The Tale of Peter Rabbit. It's multiple choice questions, and I'm hopeful that you'll find it accessible. I wouldn't say easy because um, everything is easy if you are prepared for it, and everything is difficult if you're not prepared for it, obviously. Yeah, this is the procedural part of the class. If you would like to come to the mic and say something, share an insight, share a concern, come to the mic. Otherwise, I'm going to call it a day. No questions?
So far, so good, doctor.
Yes. So happy for that. Okay, طيب. يعني on this note and with this item, we come to the end of today's class, and I'll see you on Thursday in the master class session, inshallah. يلا السلام عليكم.
Thank you, doctor.
Yeah, bye bye.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome.